is our very special guest, Ms. Shahista Thokan Ismail. Assalamu alaikum and welcome, Shahista.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you keeping, Sister Najma?
I'm very well, Alhamdulillah. And you?
I'm well. But just to correct you, it's Shaista Ibrahim. You've got something
Ah,
written right.
Shahista Ibrahim. Thank you
Yes.
for correcting me. It's the information I have in front of me. Jazakallah. Okay, Shaista, as I said in my introduction, depression is especially when we talk about mental health, that's the first one that actually pops up. And we feel it's, oh no, people listening might go, it's depression again. Not unless it affects you, do you actually pay attention to it. And it's very important that we realize what the signs and symptoms are so that in terms of our topic today, we'll be looking at how one can identify this as a loved one, which is extremely important. I'm sure you agree.
Absolutely. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yes, depression is actually synonymous with, anxiety, with grief, with stress, and obviously sometimes mental issues as well. How we identify depression, because depression doesn't kind of happen overnight. It's a gradual build up until we get to a point where we feel, there's no hope, everything is just lost, everything looks bleak, life, nothing worth getting up for, life is not worth living. And when we get into that state, when we know the person is, we can term them as a depressed person, right? And then you have different types of depression, manic depression, there's so many different terms. But what we need to look out for anybody that's going through any kind of difficulty is grief. So depression, it starts off with people not wanting to mix and socialize. That's one of the biggest ones. They're always making excuses. No, you go, I'm okay, or I'm tired. They always feel tired, they're exhausted. It's also like the body. The mind gives the body signals, right? So the mind is what controls everything, and the body just kind of follows. So whatever happens in the mind is going to play out in your body. So the
Mm,
mind, comes to a point and it says, I can't take this anymore, because that's when you're depressed, when you've been sliding along, going down all the time, feeling, a little bit challenged and tired of, and then you get to a point where it just feels like everything becomes just too much to deal with. So you're going to hear things like, I'm tired, I'm so exhausted, I've got a headache. Headache is a huge thing, okay? So
mm,
one of the biggest emotions that we have are, as human beings, we need to feel validated. We need to feel
mm,
important. We need to feel good enough. So when we see life challenging us to a point where we think we're not being capable of handling it, then we're not feeling validated. People are putting us down, life's putting us down, our challenges make us feel really not good about ourselves. So the first sign of an invalidated person, somebody who doesn't feel good enough about themselves, that will come out as a headache. Okay, that's like the first sign of triggered headache. And so
mm,
sometimes it goes to the point of migraine. So, they've always lethargy. Because if you're energetic, that means, you have a zest for life, you want to do things, you're pushing yourself all the time. Depressed people normally get to a point is, I just, like, what's the point? What is the point? I just can't do this anymore. It's almost as if they're giving up and giving in. And so the thing is like, why do I need to give you energy? Like, it just, everything feels like a burden, everything's too much. So there's no energy, they're lethargic all the time, they're sleepy all the time, the body just wants to shut down, the mind wants to close and shut down, and sleep is the best way. So depressed people will sleep a lot. Every time they get a chance, they just want to put their head down. If you start to see any of these signs, and then again, they speak less, and then speech is very, it's sad, it's depressing, because they're all talking in the negative. Like, they'll make, statements as in, what's the point of carrying on? Or, I just can't do this anymore. Or, it doesn't rain in my life, it pours. You hear those statements, and if you really pay attention to it, then it comes across as somebody who really is, the mind's not finding any joy in anything anymore. So
mm,
when you see these telltale signs, it becomes
mm,
imperative that you catch the person beforehand, because depression is like, it's like a downhill spiral. It
mm,
starts at a point, and then it snowballs and snowballs, and when you get to the bottom, now you've got a big problem, because you have to deal with the person, overcome huge amounts, rather than if you catch it in the bud, when you're just starting to notice this. If you people say, if you hear people around you say, I don't want to come out, you've got to say, no, I'm sorry. You just, we're going out, we're going visiting. It's only half an hour, but it'll do you a whole lot of good to see and to see people. And then sometimes people don't want to leave the house because really they don't even want the sun. I mean, they just don't want to be exposed to life in a way. So take them by the hand and make them sit in the sun, because vitamin D is a beautiful a natural vitamin that actually helps with depression as well. So it kind of
Right.
helps a person get out of it. Just being outdoors, sitting on the grass is great. So when you see these little signs, and sometimes they start off little and you've got to really pay attention, but then they become really bold and they're in your face. You have to do something. Don't believe people that say, no, I'm fine, and you just know that they just want to be left in that little corner. You have to sometimes pull them out of the corner, drag them if you have to, because leaving them there can spiral even worse. And then people tend to then have suicidal thoughts, feelings of really not wanting to belong any longer. It just gets bigger and uglier and worse. They need help at that point.
Yeah. Right. So, the thing is, one has to identify the condition for oneself. Now, that's the difficulty, because the patient, if you like, or the person suffering from depression doesn't know the difference, because this is a very serious disorder. And because it's not apparent, it might, the signs and symptoms that you indicated are, of course, the bigger, broader indicators. And if one doesn't, identify with that from the beginning as a sufferer, then I think the spiraling out of control becomes difficult. So I think it's the condition itself that needs to be understood by everyone, because you might be feeling sad or melancholic, but it's not depression. So how does one get out of that? Or does, now, because our topic is on how do you identify it as a loved one, which is what you focused on now, is obviously the person, him or herself, might be in denial. Can we expand on the denial part? And also, because it's such an abstract, if you like, for the want of a better word, condition, it only becomes apparent when the person is now neglectful, like you indicated, just withdrawn. They're in a very dark space, so they want to dark, figuratively, and it's literally as well. So they want to keep themselves in a literal dark space as well. And those are now bigger signs. But how would we encourage the person, him or herself, to know or to accept that I am not feeling as good as I used to, or I can't get over my sadness, or why am I in this permanent melancholic state?
Okay. So we're talking about people that are, close to us, right? Loved ones. It could be
Yeah,
family
yeah, yeah,
members, people
yeah.
that we identify with. So firstly, we need to understand that denial and grief at always start at a point. There's some circumstance in our life that happens. So that's our starting point. If a person has lost a loved one, then that person is someone that you need to keep an eye on, especially the person that passed away, example, was close to them, right? Because that brings
Right,
around grief. If
right.
people, with COVID, would be on, we sort of getting off our feet again and getting back to normality as best as we can. But people have lost homes and they've lost, businesses, and there's just so much that has happened recently in the past 2 years, especially. So we obviously know there's always an incident. So we need to keep an eye out if something big happens in a person's life that we know would normally impact on them, right? Because if you lose a business, there's grief involved, there's sadness, there's
Sure.
worry, anxiety, what's going to happen now? You lose a loved one, the same thing. So grief is by itself. We can grieve a lost business. We can grieve a child who's going a bit wayward these days. We can grieve. So grief is a very broad emotion, and it fits into
Mhm.
almost every kind of incident that happens in the person's life. But grief in itself has 5 different levels, 5 aspects. Because firstly, people go straight into denial, right? They go into denial before it gets to acceptance. They can't believe, they can't accept, they just feel. And as human beings, we always want to think that we're stronger than we are. We hope that we are, because we'll tell everybody, no, I'm
Correct.
fine, I'm okay. We do that,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
the denial process is when people themselves think they're doing okay, but you as an outsider watching in know better.
Mm.
You can
Yeah.
see this is not the
Mm.
person that I knew before. They're not as strong, they're not as bubbly, they're not as talkative,
Right.
they don't want to mix again. When they come out
Mm.
with us, they're like very quiet, they not part of conversation. Like you
Mm.
know the person, especially the people that are close to you. And most
Mm.
people just want to be left alone. So at
That's right.
that point, they don't want to, and everybody believes that I'm okay. And then we don't want to be a burden to everybody because that's a very big thing with human beings, right? We don't want to be a
Right.
burden. And now, and
Yeah.
all citizens, but
Uh,
people don't like therapy.
mm. Yeah.
It's as much as it's great, they don't want to think that there's something wrong with them, and because the word therapy just denotes, I think, something like
Correct.
I'm mentally crazy. I'm not mentally mad. Like I'm
Yes.
okay. I'm with it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and
A very, very important point there, Sister Shaista. Sorry to break you there. We'll talk about it. We'll expand on that straight after this break.
sure, sure.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan. Southern Africa Dawah Network is a non-profit organization striving to uplift the disadvantaged and empowering through education and dawah. Donate to the SADN centers, the MA Mutala Islamic Center, as well as our Islamic centers in Amoti, Imtalumi, Botshabelo, and Castile. Donate your zakat and lillah today. Contact Farooq Sheikh 076 321 0650, Yusuf Mohammadi 072 259 3457, or the SADN head office 031 304 8000. Our account, Standard Bank, account number 050 856 294 for your zakat, or 050 879 790 for your lillah. Dawah through education, education through dawah, the Southern Africa Dawah Network.
There's no smell that takes me back to the comfort of my childhood than the smell of black seed oil being applied by my nani. Now I'm using tib black seed in my own home to soothe sniffles and coughs, to help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like tib black seed. You can find Tib Black Seed at all leading pharmacies or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
There are an estimate of 153 million orphans worldwide. Change
So
their
who am I
lives.
going to read out? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe 10:30
150
after
rand
10 or 11 and 12 or something. Yeah, I will. I will.
Be orphan kind. Visit www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573 to find out how you can help save these children's lives. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Rich Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Decades of war, devastating drought, and economic collapse have pushed the Afghan people to the edge of survival. 24 million need life-saving aid, and 5 million children are knocking on famine's door. The world cannot just watch as this terrible crisis unfolds. With your support, the Al-Imdad Foundation is delivering emergency relief to the Afghan people. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
Welcome back to Mid Morning Talk with Najma Kota, my very special guest, Sister Shahista Ibrahim, who is a transformation coach and facilitator. We are talking about how to identify and help a loved one who suffers from depression and mental issues. Shahista, I don't think that the importance of therapy can be overemphasized. You know, we need to talk about that a bit more. I think also the fact that depression is it cannot be underestimated in terms of its seriousness, and a depressed loved one can't just snap out of it by sheer force of will. And I think that's the difficulty, because the person might him or herself feel that I can because I'm not crazy, and others would say, come on, just get out of this. You can. They mean well, of course, but I think it's that means that it indicates that the understanding of the disorder itself might not be as good enough as we'd like it to be. So please expand on that so that people can benefit from the information, inshallah, today.
Inshallah, inshallah. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yes, absolutely well said. Really, people do not understand how your mind impacts your body as well, okay, and how problems escalate in our mind when we left our own devices. These days we turn a lot to Google. You know, Dr. Google says this, and then so sometimes people overdiagnose themselves because Google gives you such huge things that even though problem is small, when they read up certain symptoms, it could be that they think something's really wrong with them, majorly wrong with them, okay, because they're getting wrong information. Then, a lot of people may have overcome certain things, and they say, you don't need therapy then. Okay, fine. If you want to go, that's fine. Do it on your own. But from my experience, I see people who've been thinking about, change or have been going through something for so long, and then they come and they say, I've been doing, this has happened like 6 years ago, and you think, why have you been sitting with a problem for 6 years where all you needed was a few sessions and it was over? You could have carried on with your life rather than holding on to that trauma. So, when therapists work with people, number one, it's confidential. So a lot of people worry, oh, okay, if I know you, are you going to tell everybody? We pride ourselves on confidentiality. Our certificate will be taken away from us. It isn't a confidence, so that's the first thing. And I think over the years, you hear so many stories that, again, the second thing is nobody gets judged by anything because people feel shy to come and say, I think you're going to judge me. And we've heard so many things that are way out these days that nothing short of, we don't judge because that's what our job is. We're here to just help, facilitate healing on all levels so you can just carry on with your life. It's not about judging, it's about helping you. So our mindset, and people forget, and they don't look at it from the way we do, they look at it from how they would see it, right? So that's the second thing. The third thing is people, when your mind is not clear enough, it impacts on every part of you. So number one is if you have an issue and you're thinking that, you're depressed, you're anxious. Depression leads to anxiety. When you're anxious, you're not thinking straight. You're thinking you're living in the future. You're thinking about the past. So you never really. People don't get the best of you. So your home life starts to suffer. Your kids, you start seeing it. They start, their grades start slipping. There's no control over because they feel mom's just busy or dad's just sleeping all the time. There's no real control over them. There's no balance. There's no stability. So if you sort it out within yourself, everything else tends to suffer. Okay? So everybody around the environment. And then it's not just working on you. You can pick yourself up and then also pick up the pieces around you that have also fallen while that particular person was going through their depression as such. Okay? So it's a very holistic way that we need to approach this. And the most important thing is, as therapists, we have such beautiful tools these days that they're not sharing so openly on. I mean, that's what we study.
Correct.
So we can help people get through a certain phase. I always say, if you look at our cell phone, I mean, we look after it, and if something happens to the cell phone, if it's not working well, nobody sits with a broken cell phone. They go, you give it in, and you get it fixed with a little bit of a warranty, right? And then it's almost as good as new again. But minds are exactly the same. Our circuitry is the same. We've got wiring, we've got neurons, we've got nerves. It has to work in a certain way. Sometimes we do have a little bit of, there's a disconnection as such. And so we need to go to the right people to actually fix that circuitry, fix that nervous system, fix
Yeah.
the whatever the
Yeah.
disconnection is, and then you go back brand new. And I always say this, like, why wouldn't you deserve that for yourself? Why is it the
Mm.
problem? When I started
Yeah.
out, people come and say, I used to go here and I used to do counseling, and I'm now about 8 years later, and that's when I thought, whoa, like people do that. They
Right.
hurt.
Yeah, sorry to break you there. I wish we had more time. I just want to squeeze in one very important aspect here that you mentioned. We're talking about holistic wellness, and as holistic wellness practitioners, I think the one thing that we need to encourage people on is that, medication is not the answer, because I think medication also has a huge stigma, especially for depression. um, you know, there's always the clinical aspect which has to be properly monitored if you are at that point where you need to be medicated for it. However, when you talk about tools that we as therapists equip our patients with, it's so much easier when you just apply it. So you need to get past that first barrier itself. And I think for someone who's, if it's your friend or a family member resisting getting help, it's important to find out why. Because it might just be that they are still in denial, or that, oh no, I'm going to be sleeping all day with an antidepressant. They don't exactly know what to expect when you approach it from a holistic wellness point of view.
Absolutely. Funny enough, people love meds, right? And they go to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist is able
Yeah,
to prescribe medication. Firstly, they won't go for therapy, which is a whole lot cheaper, but your first consult with a psychiatrist is nothing under 1/6, right? Nothing under 1/6 these days for like 15, 20 minutes of just a prescription. And the prescription is take the med. If you don't feel better, come back and I'll give you new ones. Because it's also not a one size fits all. Okay, it's got to be
correct.
suited to you,
Absolutely.
for you, which
Yeah,
one does. Meds also tend to suppress your emotions, so it makes you more oblivious to your environment. It just suppresses everything that's going on. Nothing gets fixed and nothing gets sorted out, and there's still the side effect of it. Okay, so you're numb to everything. You're numb to whatever you're going through and to future events. So nothing then makes you happy. You become for me, like a walking zombie. You're just
right.
existing more than anything. That's what the medication does. So
Mm,
spend, that amount of time. Give yourself sessions. Like in everything in life, if it was so easy, if using example, getting slimmer was easy, there wouldn't be a fat person in the world, right? Who had carrying body fat, because everything takes time, it takes effort, and it is hard work. The same thing with the mind. If you got to get your mind right, and your therapist says, I want you to do this exercise, or I want you to do that, or your coach does that for you, you've got to
mm,
follow through because they know what they studied this. So
absolutely.
it's not like you walk in and somebody just takes a wand. So if you're willing to think that my life is worth the effort, then you
Yeah,
will do. And for those
yeah,
people who don't want that, I've had a lot of people say, I've played sessions for my sister, whether she likes it or not, she's got to come. And the sister comes really begrudgingly in. We do as much as we can, but again, you want to have a willing participant. There's so much more
yes.
shift that happens when somebody comes in happily rather than because she told me so.
Absolutely. You have to be willing. Yeah, that's winning half your battle, actually, because now you're willing to help yourself, which is a very difficult thing to do when you are depressed. So, I think just picking yourself up and having that drive to help oneself, as difficult as it might be, even if you need someone to hold your hand to take you to the therapist, that's your first step to recovery, because now you're really fighting it and you're using your body's resources to assist in your recovery. So I think supporting your loved ones' treatments can be a whole other topic between you and I, Shaista. I love talking to you. I love what you're saying and sharing with us today. But I think supporting that is very important by, of course, empathizing and understanding what the condition is. And it's actually good to then maybe talk to a therapist beforehand so that you know how to equip yourself to support one, because I think this also has this spiraling effect on the family. When a person is suffering from depression and it goes into clinical state, then of course it's difficult to cope around that for the loved ones around them. So maybe you can conclude with your comment on that.
I think everybody deserves a chance in life. I think we all go through our challenges. I think this world is supposed to challenge us because nothing here is meant to be permanent, and it's supposed to test us. And our iman gets us through gets us through a lot. It gets us through huge, trials and a lot of challenges. But I also believe, along with that, we actually need to get a life that is worth living for ourselves and for the people around us. And if your mind is not in the right place, then even your connection with Allah changes. Then even your body starts changing. Even when you start bringing on pain for yourself, like you need to know how important you are and how help is available. We live in a time where everything is possible these days. So we live in that space for years to come where you just exist rather than thrive, and you're just surviving only. I mean, I think everybody deserves a better chance. And if you need help, tell the people around you, push me a little bit. Yes, I want this for myself, and I sometimes go back into a rut, but help me. Ask for help, ask for whatever support you need, but just do it for yourself because it really does impact the environment. And when things are not right and it impacts the environment, it's negatively as well. And you don't want to have, because of you, your kids have fallen apart, or because of you, your relationships have fallen apart. And people say, then it's not me, he did it. Why did he do it? Or why did they do it? Because you were present at that point. So I believe that we all have a role to play in life. And sometimes, and again, why look at mental health as stigma? If I have diabetes, example, I'm not shy to tell people, my pancreas doesn't work well, so I need to take insulin from the outside in. We accept that when it's another organ. But when it comes to the mind, we just have this stigma, and I think that's what people need to say. It doesn't matter what others look at it. It doesn't matter if it's the mind, it's a part of the body, it's an organ, and things can, we need a bit of support and help at times. And that's how we need to look at it. Not, I'm crazy, or, when people come in, they're like, who's your next client? Because I don't really bump into somebody I know. So sitting with all thoughts and the stigma. You should, if you prioritize yourself and say, I don't care, it's me and I need to sort myself out, at least I'm doing something about it.
Got it.
I think
And then, I think on that point, it's important then to start feeling like you have things back in your control, because when you're spiraling into this depressive state, you also feel that nothing's, you can't control anything. You can't even control what time of day you want to sleep or not sleep or sleep all day. Shahista, we have to end it there. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. Inshallah, have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of Ramadan. May Allah accept all your du'as, and all the best for Eid, inshallah, with your loved ones.
Jazaka, and the same to you. It is such a pleasure speaking to you, Dr. Najma. I've been such a fan of yours for years. So this is really wonderful speaking to you, alhamdulillah. Really, really great. All the best to you for the next few days. Have a beautiful, blessed, wonderful Eid, and to all our listeners as well. Inshallah, till next time.
Alhamdulillah. Shahista, the pleasure is all mine. Jazakallah khair for your kind words. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
When we come back, we explore Zanzibar.